What's up, everyone? It's UFC Vegas 62, Araujo, Grasso. This is the DFS Army MMA Killshot, and we're talking top DraftKings plays for UFC Vegas 62. I got Big Marley, the sleeveless wonder himself, here with me, and I am back. It's the geek. Let's break down a little UFC this week. Big Marl, missed you, man.
Yeah, man. Good to have you back anyways. We've been crushing it, in all sports, but especially in NFL this season. So I wanted to have you on, maybe talk about some of these big wins while we go through this podcast, promote DFS Army for me. But yeah, I mean, you've had 2 back-to-back showdown takedowns I've seen. I had a showdown King of the Beach win. We have a millionaire winner this year. It's been a good year, so I wanted to have you on to talk about those.
Absolute best start we've ever had for NFL at DFS Army. I'm starting with the big $1 million winner week 1. One of the cool things I've been doing, Big Marley, is I do a show each week here on the DFS Army YouTube channel called Week in Review, How the Millie Maker Was Made. And it's a testament not just to the Domination Station optimizer, but the projection models themselves, because my goodness, like I said, this past week, watch the show. Like, one like button on Gabriel Davis got you a top 3 Millie Maker lineup with no adjustments. And week 1, first button push, lineup 4 or 5 was like top 5 in the Millie Maker as well. And a 150 lineup run, pretty much you couldn't miss it. So it has been incredible this year, and we're just getting started. I took my 3rd showdown of the week down last night. It wasn't worth much,
wow,
but the other 2 were. Last night was the biggest tie maybe in the history of showdowns, to the point where I crafted the nuts lineup on FanDuel on the showdown breakdown show. The nuts, it was the winner. And that's why everybody won it. But sadly, it didn't win that much money. But we are talking MMA. I've played a little MMA during the NFL season, but I will admit, Big Mar, I don't play a lot of it. I don't have really a lot of time, so I'm relying on your notes, your sheet. I mean, you crushed it. Yan Xiaonan last week. It was awesome. Some great calls I see coming out of the MMA sheets. I've been following that. So, but obviously during the season, I don't have as much time. But this card I'm going to be playing because we're doing this. So I'm going to be prepared. Just 1 hour with Marley will get me ready to rock.
Perfect. You can ask questions that people that aren't doing the research would.
Yeah,
so.
I'm unresearched for the most part. I'm familiar with a few of the names, in fairness, but I'm unresearched. So let's just jump right into this card and start at the bottom. Like, what? Mike Jackson is back. The reporter, he's taking on Pete Rodriguez. Pete Rodriguez is obviously a massive -700. I don't even know who Pete Rodriguez is, but he's a massive -700 favorite in this spot. And inside the distance odds of -485. This seems like the lock of the slate. You just play P-Rod and you move on.
If you can afford him, he is the most expensive guy on DraftKings. They just released salaries like 20 minutes before we did this podcast. But he is the biggest favorite on the card, -700. I got the wrong P. Rodriguez open here because there's 2 of them on this card. But all of his fights have gone under 3 minutes, which is a good thing to target in general. I don't know how he'll look if this fight gets extended. Maybe that's Jackson's path to victory.
There's no path. Let's not even fuck around with that. There's no path for Jackson having a victory.
Well, technically, I kind of thought that in his last fight, and he got a win via DQ. So there's always a path.
Well, there you go.
But either way, I don't think I'm going to be using Mike Jackson. I think he does have to extend this past the first round to be able to see any real success. Pete Rodriguez is not a great fighter either. He's just got power in his hands, and he's fought some low-level competition. He's been able to get early knockouts over them. Mike Jackson's low-level competition, though, so I think it'll work for Rodriguez's style here. If he can get Jackson against the cage, I think he'll unload some big shots, put him away with a knockout early, or maybe he can land a takedown, get some ground and pound, land a knockout that way. I would just worry about him, if this does get out of the first round. I would not only worry about him winning, but I would worry about his score. But if I can afford him, I like him. And then with my hand builds, I'm going to be avoiding Mike Jackson. I think he's more for your MME. If you're putting 150 lineups in the domination station, maybe I max him at like 5% ownership or something like that, so I have some sort of shot if he does get another DQ win. Because I had no Jackson last time. You needed Jackson to win it. And Rodriguez is a low-level guy too, so it wouldn't completely shock me to see something crazy happen here.
There should be we just need a term for like weird shit, 5% weird shit that goes down in a UFC fight. Like
Yeah.
You know, he's getting a beating, and then the accidental knee while the hands are down, he gets knocked out, he gets the first round win. Like, what are the odds of that happening in a UFC fight? Let's put a number on it, because Mike Jackson doesn't have another path to beating. This is the guy who was brought in to beat CM Punk, like not a real MMA fighter. So like, but there's like, maybe it was like 3%. What is the odds of an eye poke / DQ?
I mean, I think it raises on a fight like this where it's lower level people who we've never seen Rodriguez go past 3 minutes. If he makes it to the second round here, who knows if he has anything in the tank at all. He might look for a way out if that's
but Mike's not putting up enough resistance to gas you. This isn't even like when Maria Agapova just beat so much of the shit out of what's her name, Dodson or whatever her name was, you know, and ends up gassing herself out and losing. Like, I don't think Mike Rodriguez is anything, nothing. He's a 0.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, he's like the guy at the gym. If you go to the UFC gym and he's like in the ring, you know, kind of, and he's like the big shot at your local UFC gym because he's basically one of the guys from the class that's in there, and he's like a little better than everyone. But this is the actual UFC.
Yeah, he really just takes videos. That's what he's a photographer, videographer, or something like that. That's what he does. But he got that shot against CM Punk. But I mean, Pete Rodriguez is not a UFC level guy either. So I just don't think it's a normal way to say.
Okay. I don't know anything about Pete Rodriguez. So there you go.
He sucks, because we're talking about two guys who could possibly suck here. But I am going to take Rodriguez to get a first round knockout.
Icon Fighting Federation. You're saying that's not a good federation? The Icon Fighting Federation that Rodriguez.
Yeah, I don't think that's our next UFC. No.
Okay. All right. Well, there it is. All right. Second fight on the card. We probably spent more time on that one than we needed to. Second fight on the card. You've got Tatsuro Tiara taking on Carlos Vergara. Tatsuro, coming off a win, is minus 235 as a favorite. The comeback on Vergara is plus 195, and the fight ends inside the distance, plus 140. So it is favored to go the distance. What can you tell me about these two guys?
Yeah, I like this Tyra guy. He's 22 years old. I think he's good everywhere. He's got solid striking. He knocked his opponent down in his in his UFC debut. But what I think is really special with him is his grappling. I don't think he's the best wrestler, but once he gets the fight to the ground, he looks really good. He's got slick submissions. He controlled his last fight for like 8 total minutes. And I think that's all in play here. If he can get the fight to the ground, I think it's going to be his fight to lose. And I think he can definitely work his way into a submission at some point. On the feet, though, I think it's a lot closer. I do think Tyra's a solid striker, but Vergara's got good hands, fast hands. He puts up good volume. So I do think a striking match, if we're given this fight just 15 minutes of striking, I think it would be a lot closer to 50-50. Vergara's a live dog here, but I just don't see him with 100+ upside unless he's getting a knockout. The knockout's in play. This Tyra kid's only 22 years old. We haven't seen his chin cracked yet. But I think that's the only way Vergara is going to be able to get any chance at 100 points. He has wrestling ability, but I don't think you want to wrestle against a guy like Tyra. I think he would end up with a reversal and be dominating either way. So I think Vergara's looking to keep this one standing and just win it on the feet. And I think he can score 70 to 80 points. If he does that, he's just in play as a live underdog for me. I would rather target the better grappler in this one. So for me, it's going to be more so Tyra or pass in my hand builds, but I wouldn't X either one of them out in MMA.
Tyra's a little expensive on DraftKings here at 9,100. So he damn well better do a lot of grappling when he doesn't have much of a decent finish prop here. So feels a little fadey to me. Feels a little fadey at first look.
Yeah, not a must-have, but I'll get some Tyra exposure.
All right, next up we've got Pierre Rodriguez, a.k.a. P-Rod, taking on Sam Hughes. My girl, Sam Hughes. What? Plus 150. How is she an underdog? She won me a tournament. Love Sam Hughes.
Yeah, it was the best she ever looked. She scored 121 points. We were all over her. She was the kill shot. But that was against a fighter who had no ground game at all. I do think this Pierre Rodriguez girl she definitely has much more of a ground game, like defensively, than Reed, but she also has her own offensive wrestling game. And Hughes is not a good wrestler. She just looked like a good wrestler in that matchup.
More of a willing wrestler than a good one.
Yeah.
Willing.
She is. That's what's good about her. So I think she's in play kind of like Vergara. I think she's a live underdog here. And if she wins, I think if they both won, Hughes has the higher upside because I think she's more likely to grapple, have success, 2 to 4 takedowns throughout the fight, spend time in top control. But I do think Rodriguez is the better boxer by a good margin, actually. That's why she's almost a 2-1 favorite here, is her striking ability. But it could come down to who can land takedowns. If that's Hughes, then that's her path to victory right there. But I also think Rodriguez has that same path to victory. So I am going to lean with her. This is a fight that I'm really just not looking to target a whole lot of. If I had to put one of them in my lineup, I'd rather just take Hughes because she's the underdog. She is a live underdog, and I do think she would score around, at least 10x or more if she's able to get it done. Where I don't feel good about Rodriguez scoring 10x. I would rather target people priced above her if I could. So Hughes is the preferred play, but I'm picking Rodriguez to win a decision, probably 29-28.
Yeah, I mean, P-Rod definitely has been even more of a willing grappler so far in her career. 3 takedowns per 15. She's also going up against Sam Hughes, who does not have very good historical takedown defense. So, yeah, it could be a flip the script situation here where Piara, it's hard to judge female fighters like on how good their actual skill set is, more than just being willing to go for a takedown until you see two kind of grapplers face off, and then you kind of can tell, oh, this one's a better version of that. But at the very least, P-Rod does go for takedown, so I think she's got to be in that mix. All right, next up, another 2 grapplers. Nick Maximoff taking on Jacob Malkoon. This is a close one, -135, a slight favorite for Maximoff. Malkoon +115. Let's see what the inside the distance. I'm assuming it's very low. Fight goes the distance -245. So we are looking at what appears to be a potential decision one way or the other. Now, I want to bring up their stats because these 2 guys are grappling freaks. Big Marley, which one is the better grappler? That's all I need to know from you. Just let me know which one is better at the grappling.
Well, I would say the better grappler is Maximoff, but I don't know who the better wrestler is, and that's what it's all going to come down to. Whoever's the one landing the takedowns is probably going to spend time in top control, and they're probably going to be able to grind out at least 2 rounds to get the win. It could be back and forth if they're able to get up, but I would favor Maximoff in the grappling, probably favor Malkoon in the striking, and then it's just a toss-up, man. I don't know who the better wrestler is. We got Maximoff averaging 5.5 takedowns per 15 minutes. Malkoon averaging 7 takedowns per 15 minutes. This is just one where we want to target both sides of it. They're priced in the mid-range this week, and if either one of them is able to have 2 or 3 rounds of heavy wrestling, grappling success, then they're going to score well, and maybe they have enough to do 3 rounds. Maybe one of them is a good amount better in the wrestling. I don't know, but I think Maximoff has got the higher ceiling. I've just been more impressed with him. I don't think I picked Malkoon yet, which completely burned me twice. But Malkoon was taken down twice on 2 attempts against Brendan Allen. Maximoff has never been taken down in the UFC. So defensively, I guess I'll side with Maximoff. He is a slight favorite. I guess I would agree with the odds, and I'll lean with Maximoff here. But if I'm making a hand build and I need to go from Maximoff to Malkoon to get in someone else I like more, I have no problem with that. If the DS gives me more Malkoon than Maximoff, I'm totally cool with that. This is one where I just want a ton of the fight, but I'll let the optimizer do the work for me based on the prices and what combinations fit where. It's just one I want to be heavy on, probably 3/4 of my total lineups. If this is a striking match, man, it's going to be awful, but I expect to see a lot of grappling.
This is not going to be it's so unlikely to be a striking match.
Yeah. It would be, oh man, it would suck. Especially for DraftKings, it would suck if it's a striking match.
Would not score well at all. Fights sometimes get weird like that, but from what I've seen of Malkoon, he does not go in there wanting to strike at all. And I think those kind of guys who are less well-rounded, I think Maximoff is, like, I've watched both of these guys fight. Maximoff is probably a little more of a well-rounded, all-around fighter. We haven't seen much striking out of Maximoff, but I'm going to favor Maximoff here. I actually think these guys like Malkoon, who come in and shock fighters who can't wrestle with their grappling relentlessness, actually just they wither when they go up against somebody who can grapple. So that's my guess. Yeah, like that's kind of what happens with Malkoon. I've seen it before. I've seen it before with these types of fighters that only have that one skill set, and then as soon as somebody can counter it, they're toast. Yeah. So it feels like a Maximoff spot.
And then we skipped a fight. There's no odds on this other fight. There's no salaries yet. There's a Joe Anderson Brito versus Lucas Alexander. Alexander's taking this fight on short notice with like the last couple days notice, I'm pretty sure. I looked into it a little bit today. I would assume that Brito is going to open up as the favorite, probably around 2-1 would be my guess. But if they hang a big number on Alexander, I am interested. I thought his striking looked pretty good. I think he could be the better minute winner on the feet. But Brito is big, explosive power on the feet. He could get a knockout there. He could also win minutes on the feet as well. He could win by any method here. But I think it would be smart of Brito to be looking for takedowns in this matchup. Alexander looks like pretty much a pure striker to me. He did okay, getting in top control in one of the fights that I saw. I didn't watch his whole career yet. But in this matchup, to me, he looks like he's going to be a pure striker where Brito could have the wrestling edge. He could get a submission here as well. I'm siding with Brito, but I really want to see the odds on this one before I decide what I'm going to do on DraftKings or betting-wise, because if they throw like plus 300 on Alexander, I would take a shot at that. I think he looked pretty good, where Brito on DraftKings, he's going to have to wrestle well or get a knockout because I just don't think he's ever going to be high volume enough to score well in a striking-based decision. So he's going to need a few takedowns in there, top control time, ground strikes, or a finish to score well. But I'm interested in both sides depending on where they price it.
That is fair. It's tough to really talk about a fight with no pricing and no odds and no nothing. So I like that. All right, well done. All right, let's move on to the next one. It is Rafael Assunção taking on Victor Henry. And oh, how the mighty hath fallen. Assunção at one point was kind of one of these guys that would not be a heavy underdog against just about anyone, Big Marley. Like Assunção was a guy that I don't care who you put him. Marlon Moraes, whoever the big people were in the division. These were close fights. And now Victor Henry is a minus 330 favorite against Assunção. Assunção, who also, and here we go, fight inside the fight goes the distance minus 140. So slight lean towards a decision. And Big Marley, another thing that, was a staple with Assunção was just generally low scoring fights.
Yeah.
I don't care who he was fighting. It was low scoring. That's Assunção's fights. So do we think that changes here?
No, I think he would need a submission to have any chance at scoring well. And well, Henry's never been finished at all. He's never been knocked out. He's never been submitted. So I really just don't see a high ceiling, even if Assunção is able to pull it off somehow. But I think he would need to grapple in order to do so. But he's 40 years old now. I don't think he's going to be a good enough wrestler throughout 3 rounds to rely on him to do that. And Henry looked damn good in his UFC debut against Raoni Barcelos, who is very good himself. He landed 181 significant strikes in that fight, and it would take Assunção, at least 4 full fights to get to 181 significant strikes. He hasn't had 181 significant strikes in his last 6 combined fights. So I just don't see how he can hang with Henry.
That was one of the highest scoring striking based 3-round decisions that you're ever going to see. It might be the highest ever.
I mean, we got like some JJ fights back in the day, maybe,
3-rounder
freak, but
have we ever seen a 3-rounder with 181 significant strikes landed? That's like a crazy high number.
It is a ton. And he looks really good doing it. So I'm really going to be Henry or pass on this one. I'm going to X Assunção out of my lineups. I really want nothing to do with him, and it's just going to come down to if I can afford Henry or not. Like Pete Rodriguez versus Henry is a good. What do you do here? If I have the extra 200, I'm fine going to Pete. But if I need the 200, I'm fine going to Henry. I really don't care too much ownership-wise. I'll take whatever I can get with those two. If I can get them in the same lineup, great. I have a hard time thinking I'll be able to do that this week, but we'll see. I like Henry a good amount. I think he could get a decently scoring decision if it goes there, but I also think he's in play for a TKO here. Assunção coming off back-to-back TKO losses, lost 4 straight, 40 years old, as I mentioned. So give me Henry.
9,300 is just a little spendy for me as well on Henry. When you look at the striking defense for a Sun Sao. He's very, very good at avoiding getting hit. Again, these are just things that have been established over such a long career that I cannot assume a guy with a 70% striking defense is going to get lit up for 180 strikes in a fight. And without the knockout, I mean, this is going to score terrible. So be careful. All I'm going to add is just be careful with Henry, because as great as he did in that last fight without doing anything, he probably needs that knockout. There's no way I could see him landing at 180 here.
I would agree with that. Yeah. I think he's really in play for the knockout, especially if he is able to land, at a pace that Sun Sao is just not used to, I guess.
And against an old guy, like, let's be real, he's going up against like an old guy who's 40, and that's where you can get it. So yeah, proceed with caution though. Why did they add a fight to this card? Why did they need 2 random Brazilians? Just late add to the card.
Brito was on the card. He was on the card against Bagdasarian. That would have been a good fight.
Okay.
Bagdasarian broke his hand, I guess. So this other guy's jumping on.
That's why I was like, at first I started thinking maybe it's in Brazil. Like, why are these 2 random Brazilian no names on the card, but being added late? But that makes more sense. All right. Next up, we've got the aforementioned. Did we aforely mention Brandon Davis? I thought we mentioned him on these fights.
No, I don't think so.
No, all right. The non-aforementioned Brandon Davis. All right, Brandon Davis taking on Leomana Martinez, with Martinez coming in as a -150 favorite, and the comeback on Brandon Davis +130. Fight goes another fight 50-50 goes to the distance or not. So Brandon Davis has been a bit of a, I don't know these fighters. Brandon Davis is a striker who, some grappling though, nice, well-rounded game. But tell me about Leomana.
Yeah, Mana's
Mana Martin. What the hell is that Leomana shit? I know Mana Martin.
Yeah, I'm sure Leo Mana's his real name or something.
Okay,
I only call him Mana.
Okay, now all right. I'm like, wait, who the hell's Leomana? All right, here we go.
I think Mana's got good boxing. He's not a high-paced striker, but he's got power in his hands. I think that's the best thing about this fight in general is the power in Mana's hands. He has one-shot knockout power, which is surprising for 135 pounds, and it's also something that you don't want to rely on at 135 pounds. Davis was knocked out in his last fight, though, against your boy Dana Bagels. And that was his first TKO loss, but he just really didn't look good. That was his return to the UFC. He didn't look good in that first round while the fight was going on. And I just got to think that if Mana can connect hard, he can put him away. But it's kind of knockout or bust for Mana for him to score well, because I don't think we're going to have a lot of takedowns from either side. And I do think Davis is probably the better grappler of the two. It would be smart of him to mix in takedowns. I think he could be ahead on volume in this fight. Like, he'll throw a lot more volume. He just isn't very accurate with it. And I just don't see 100+ from Davis either, unless he's able to finish. And if he is able to win, I think he's got 2 UFC wins, and he scored maybe 78 and 83, I want to say. That's probably not going to cut it here. So I might just get rid of Davis, focus on higher ceilings as underdogs. Like, Davis he's a live dog here. He could score 70, 75 points if he's able to get a win. But there's underdogs that I feel less good about winning, but way better about them scoring 100 points if they do win. And I would honestly rather just target those people. So Davis is going to be a pass for me. Mana, I think he's in play if he's able to get that early knockout, but if he doesn't, he's not going to score well either. So I don't want a whole lot of Mana either, but he's my preferred play of the two if I do have to use this fight.
That's why I remembered who he was. He was that guy that finally handed Guido Canetti a win after so many years of
he got a win over Canetti.
No. Oh, he did beat Canetti, but it was a 3-rounder.
And then Lawrence took him down a ton.
Well, Lawrence does that to everybody. Yeah. He finally didn't. Actually, he was the only guy that didn't finish Canetti, which doesn't bode well. Canetti always gets finished, and it doesn't bode well for him finishing Brandon Davis here. You can't finish Guido.
Yeah, not something I probably just look to avoid the fight. But if I'm making a lineup and I have 8,500 for my last spot, and like Maximovs are already in there, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, that's about it. That one does not really pop off the screen as something you want to get crazy with. And All right, let's move on. Misha Cirkunov taking on Alonzo Menefield. Menefield minus 220 favorite. Cirkunov plus 180. Man, this just feels like a fight with like has-beens and washed-up fighters. What am I feeling? The fight ends inside the distance. Is a strong minus 285. Man, that chin of Cirkunov, Big Marley, hasn't been the best as of late. I feel like he just always gets knocked out. I mean, I'm going to look at his record here, but that's like more of a memory. Yeah, I mean, he gets finished to lose. He's getting finished by kind of scrubby guys. Johnny Walker. Yeah, he's just. I had high hopes for Misha Cirkunov. And Alonzo Menefield's not that much better. I mean, he's just out there, taking a loss to William Knight. He's got some weird history as well. How do you see this one going down?
I actually think that minus 285 that the fight ends early is not high enough. I think it should be closer to minus 400, to be honest with you. I don't expect the judges to be needed in this one. You mentioned Cirkunov has a weak chin. Menefield has big power. I think if Cirkunov is not able to get takedowns, it's going to be a matter of time before he gets knocked out. That's how I see it going. But if he can get takedowns, he is very live to score well with a submission, a ground and pound finish throughout the fight. This is just a fight I want in basically every lineup that I build. I think it's either going to be a knockout from Menefield or a finish on the ground from Cirkunov. I'm picking Menefield to get the knockout. I just think the biggest weakness in this entire fight is Cirkunov's chin, and Menefield's not a guy you want to test when you have a weak chin. So I'm going to pick Menefield to get the knockout. But again, I don't really have a preferred play in this one. Like I'd probably start my lineup if I'm hand building, put Menefield in there, do the rest of it. And if I don't like it, take him out, put Cirkunov in, and then try it type deal. That's kind of how I see my hand builds going. But with my, if I'm making 150, I just want to make sure this fight's in at least 3/4 of my total lineup.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Are we calling this an all-in fight? Because like this one, just when you look at it, I'm trying to think of the path to the bad score.
I would say so I'll talk about like if you turn knockouts out, if you turn knockouts off and you know that you're going to get a 15-minute fight, if Cirkunov's not having success with takedowns, he's not getting knocked out, and this is a striking match, they're not going to score well.
That's where it goes bad. Yeah, it goes bad because Menefield 83% takedown defense. It's pretty good. He's good at not getting taken down, right?
Yeah, he's a big, strong dude.
Yeah. So the path to a gross finish here is exactly what you said. Cirkunov can't get the takedown, but also doesn't get knocked out. So there's that. But I mean, Cirkunov probably will submit this guy with one takedown.
Good.
Yeah, he's got a reasonable chance. So that's a fight to load up on. I like it. Let's load up on that fight for sure. All right, next up, my boy. Now, this is my boy. The Beverly Hills Ninja, Jordan Wright, taking on Dusko Todorovich, with Dusko coming in at minus 200. And my boy Jordan Wright, plus 170. Inside the distance, oh yeah. Minus 610, Big Marley. The all-in fight of the slate, maybe. So why the hell is it minus 610? First of all, that is is that just Jordan Wright's horrible chin? Yeah. What is going on here?
Yeah, it's just kill or be killed on the Jordan Wright side. This is, best or second best favorite fight on the card. This one and the one we just talked about are the two all-ins. Just load up on these two sides. Wright scored over 110 points in his 2 UFC wins. Todorovich has a questionable chin. We've seen him knocked out twice in the UFC, but to me, it's more poor defense. He's a hands down, chin up kind of guy. So he is putting himself in danger in the striking department early against Wright. Wright could go out there, get a first round knockout, break the slate. But I just think Todorovich is just so much better than him everywhere. I think Todorovich is the better striker. I think he's got more power. I actually think he's got the better chin. He's less hittable. I think he's got the better wrestling, better grappling, better ground and pound. And I just see Todorovich being the one to get the knockout. So I will be much heavier on the Todorovich side. Like I do have a preference on this fight where I don't really care if I have to go down to Cirkunov. I would much rather have Cirkunov in my lineup than Wright. But at the same time, if I'm putting in 150 and I'm not controlling them myself, I'm totally cool with Wright and Cirkunov in the lineup. So I'll just let them mix in how they want. But I would probably limit Wright to like 20% or something like that, because I'm just not high on Jordan Wright at all. I've never picked him to get a win. No, I picked him to beat Ike Villanueva, who I've never picked to get a win. But other than that, I haven't been wrong except for that Jamie Pickett one. And I just don't think that Todorovich is going to let this guy knock him out. It would be a lot safer to go in there and get takedowns, put this guy away on the ground. But I would favor Todorovich in a striking match. I don't think minus 195 is high enough, to be honest with you. So go Todorovich. He's probably going to be my highest on fighter on the card.
Both of these guys suck.
Todorovich is okay.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, he's pretty okay. He's just got terrible striking defense. The whole hands down, chin up that's got to change. But he's a good offensive striker, right, good offensive grappler. It's really the chin and the defense that I worry about.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, part of the reason I love Beverly Hills Ninja is because he produces massive scores when he always loses.
Yeah,
for his opponents.
Yeah, he's not a guy that likes to, judges. He doesn't ever want the judges to be involved. And I just don't think he's any good. All of his wins are against guys they pull out of the crowd that night, basically.
How tough can you be coming from Beverly Hills?
Right.
Like, he was tough in Beverly Hills, but, I'm not from California. But, like, even down like in the valley, I don't know anything about California, but like I imagine like there's tougher kids like at high school in in like the valley, which is also
he probably got picked on by dorks and he had to learn how
to
like
fight. He's getting picked on by kids who look like they're from that show, like these California, the OC, like Dan from the OC. You know what I'm talking about? Or no, that's a little too obscure, but
yeah, I mean, narrative-wise, you're right. There's not a lot to like about this guy, to be honest. Except for he's dangerous offensively, and Todorovich can be hittable. That's his path right there, a knockout.
Yeah, absolutely. Load up on that fight. All right. Next up, we got Askarov taking on Brandon Royval. Ooh, okay. Hello. There's a fight with some names that are legit here. Askarov minus 245 as the favorite. Royval plus 205 as an underdog. I would imagine this is likely to go to decision. Yep, 50-50 on the inside the distance odds. So Big Marley, another one that in my quick overview doesn't look like, doesn't scream giant DraftKings score, but who knows? How do you see this one going down?
Yeah, I don't love it for DraftKings, and I more so prefer the underdog on DraftKings. I think that Askarov deserves to be the favorite. He is the better wrestler. He's a good grappler as well. He's good. He's just good everywhere. But I would say his wrestling is his best attribute. He could go out there, land multiple takedowns in this fight, and Royval is not one to try and stuff a whole lot of takedowns. He'll kind of accept being on the ground. But I do think Royval is the moment winner. I think he's the more dangerous striker, the more dangerous grappler of the two, and he's super cheap. If Royval is able to win, I think he is going to score over 10x his 7K salary, and he has 100-point upside as well if he's able to put this guy away. But Askarov at 9,200, that even with his wrestling, like, he doesn't do enough. He's had 5 takedowns and controlled a fight for 5 minutes, and he scored 90 points. He's not even 10xing this 9,200 salary, and that was his highest score yet. So I just don't think I'm going to be able to get up to Askarov. I would much rather take Rodriguez. I would much rather take Henry, and I also prefer Tyron, or however you say his name, Tatsuro. So I probably don't get to too much Askarov here. I definitely won't with my hand builds, but I'm not going to X him out of my pool. I'll just make sure he's a little bit lower projected than those other guys. If the DS puts him in there, then so be it. But Royval, someone I'm okay getting exposure to really in all formats. I think he's a fine cash game punt at that price, and I think he's got GPP winning ceiling as well. So picking Askarov to win, but Royval is my preferred play.
Are we just going to ignore the fact that Royval put a beating on Kai Kara-France, where Askarov took a beating from Kai Kara-France, and now Askarov is a massive favorite?
Yeah, I bet Kara-France at like plus 300 in that one over Askarov. So that was one of my favorite wins of the year.
That is a pretty sweet one, right? So, I mean, there is precedent here for someone like Royval not losing this fight, but I think the issue that you're going to run into is the lack of attempted takedown defense at all. So he's going to have to probably keep it standing. But I think if this fight stays standing at all, it can go either way.
I mean, he's live for a submission. I mean, I don't think Askarov's never been finished, but Royval's dangerous. I mean, everyone's susceptible to being finished, so wouldn't shock me at all to see him win anywhere.
Yeah, I'd rather be on the underdog on that one. Personally, just because Askarov scores shit when he wins. Not worth it. All right. Cub Swanson taking on Jonathan Martinez. Swanson, the old guy, now a plus 175 underdog. Martinez minus 210 as the favorite. And the fight goes the distance. Another negative number. So minus 140. Judges are the odds makers are leaning decision in this one. How do you see this one going down stylistically?
Yeah, I would lean towards decision as well. I've never been a big Martinez guy. Like, he's okay everywhere, but he's not great anywhere. And Swanson is actually making the drop here to 135 pounds for the first time at 38 years old. So that's really my biggest worry is, like, how's this guy going to look on the scales? How's he going to look in there? 10 pounds less than he ever has been. And now he's 38 years old. And I think that's why Martinez is a minus 200 favorite. But I just think that this is a much closer to a 50-50 fight than that. I think if we're going 15 minutes here, it's going to be a very close volume-wise. I think that Swanson can be more dangerous, to be honest with you. I think Swanson can be the higher volume guy. Either can land a takedown or two throughout the fight, but I don't expect to see much ground game take place. So I went with the underdog here. It's the only underdog on the card I'm picking to win. Cub Swanson. And, in my brain, I'm thinking of him as a 145-pound fighter, though. So I don't know what he's going to look like in there at 135.
Potentially better.
Potentially, yeah. And I mean, if we're getting the same Swanson we saw beat the hell out of Elkins in the first round, I just like that guy more than I like Martinez. So give me the old man to pull it up.
Yeah, similar stats. Similar size of these two fighters. Yeah. If Cub Swanson's anything like his usual self, you got to give him a good shot to win a fight like this. So I love it. I love that underdog call, Big Marley. How much is Cub on DraftKings? He is 7,200. Yeah, I mean, sure.
Oh, yeah, and I didn't even mention DraftKings. So Martinez has one good DraftKings score on his entire UFC career, and that was against Frankie Saenz, who was super old. He just looked awful in there, and he scored 115 points with a third-round knockout. But other than that, he's never even broke the 80-point mark. So at 8.8K, he's just going to be a full fade for me.
That score required 3 very unlikely knockdowns.
Yeah, you need 3 knockdowns to get there. I just don't want anything to do with Martinez here. If he wins the decision, I highly doubt he's going to be able to 10X here. And when Swanson wins, Swanson usually scores well. So
let me tell you something.
Swanson or pass all around for me.
A conviction fade is just as good as a conviction winner call. Like, if you could say with comfort, I'm not playing this guy, right?
Yeah.
I'm not playing Askarov. Fine. I'm not playing Martinez. Fine. 2 conviction fades, that's just as good. Hey, we're getting to the point where lineups are going to come together. If we can eliminate, the big thing with UFC is if you can eliminate some spots, there aren't that many variables to putting together a 6 fighter lineup. There's only 11 fights or 12 fights. And if we can eliminate some spots, you could really get an edge on the field that way. And this main event looks like a fade or not. I don't really know, but it's a weird one. Alexa Grasso, Vivian Araujo. Let's take a look at the odds here. So Grasso is coming in as a massive favorite.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. Grasso minus 220, Araujo plus 185 as the underdog. The fight goes the distance is minus 205. And let's just take a look at the stats here. But is this a fight we need to be excited about? I mean, we'll probably get 5 rounds of striking. So great. Do these guys do any grappling? I guess Araujo does. Why is Grasso favored here? What am I missing?
Well, it's 5 rounds. That's the big thing. Araujo slows down in 3-round fights. Now she's got an extra 10 minutes to work with here. I favor Grasso a good amount in those championship rounds. I feel like 3, 4, and 5 are Grasso rounds 1 or 2 are going to be the closest. And I actually think that this is a good live betting opportunity because Araujo I think she probably goes out there and wins the first round. She's a good striker. She's got power in her strikes. She's a decent wrestler as well. It's just the, power in your strikes and wrestling is going to slow you down throughout the fight. And Grasso is a slow starter. So that's just why I expect Araujo to win the first round. But I think Grasso's taking, 3 or 4 of those next 4 rounds because I think she'll be the higher paced striker throughout the fight. I think she's got the better boxing, especially the longer this fight goes. And she's done pretty decent on the ground herself in recent fights. I think she could go out there and mix in takedowns if she wanted to. The fact that this is 5 rounds is what makes it playable for me. I'm fine with either side. I'm picking Grasso to get the win, though, so she is my preferred play. But it's not a 5-round fight that I'm going to make a point to get into my lineups. If I go out there, put in the projections I like, and the DS gives me like 40% of this fight, then I'm cool with it. If it gives me 80% of this fight, I'm cool with it. I really don't care what happens with this one. I just think that both sides are in play because they got 25 minutes to work with. I think you could stack it in cash games. Just take your 50 minutes of action and win in a win. I think that's fine here. I'm not going to be playing cash, though. But I just like Grasso to get the win by winning rounds 3, 4, and 5, and possibly that second round as well. So I'll be looking to live bet this one after the first or second round. Hopefully get even money after the first. If she loses the first 2 rounds, then we're going to be getting, like plus 200 or something on Grasso. I'm cool taking that shot, even if she is down 0-2, to be honest. As long as she doesn't look like shit.
Speaking of live bets, last night, Chiefs go down by 14 or 10. They were down by 10. I think they were down 17-0 at one point. I was like, this is the live betting opportunity of a lifetime. Started hammering Chiefs, getting plus 3.5, getting plus 5. The Chiefs, like in the first, that team comes back in seconds. You never always want to bet on them when they're down in the first quarter. They just come back quickly. It's worked for me for years.
I wish I did that. I only did King of the Beach, $5 lineups last night, and they were all dead right when Adams caught that first touchdown. So I was like, oh, great, fun.
Oh yeah, no, we everybody won. I don't know why you weren't watching the showdown breakdown last night. We destroyed it again. Everybody won on draft. I won on FanDuel again.
Well,
I literally handed out
one winner.
I handed out the nuts lineup on screen
on FanDuel though.
Yeah, for FanDuel.
Yeah. I don't
Not DraftKings. No, I can't get the nuts on draft, but we nailed the nuts. We're like, hey, stack Kelsey. Anyway, it was all good. All good.
Hell yeah. Been great. I've had a great NFL season. I think I've had one losing week, but I've lost. It was like maybe $100, and then I think that was the week where Monday night I ended up winning King of the Beach. So technically, it wasn't.
That's a winner.
Week.
Yeah,
Tears has been amazing every week.
It's been a spectacular season for NFL, but it's also been a great year for MMA. It's awesome, and you've had some awesome guests on this show. So make sure you guys are tuning in, like the channel, subscribe. We want your kill shot as well. Don't forget about that. We'll get there at the end. But I'm just going to say for this fight here, I was just doing a little math. If it goes 5 rounds and they land 5 or 6 strikes per round, the winner is going to score about 85 fantasy points on DraftKings, right? 25, 125 strikes, maybe 135 strikes landed. That is only getting us about 80 to 85 fantasy points. Without a finish, without some grappling, it's going to be trouble. Alexa Grasso, not super likely to do any of those things that score additional points. Vivian Araujo is. So for me, I'm going to definitely, for DraftKings purposes, I will lean with the underdog here. I don't really think the favorite is a must play. I'd much rather play Menefield and the dude fighting the Mike Jackson because I want to pay up for them. So I'm not going to do this. There's 3. We've already come up with 3. Hold on. So let's just talk fadeable players here at the high scoring levels, right? So we're talking DraftKings. P-Rod, we want to play him. This guy, Henry, against the Sun Sao, probably not a good play. Askarov against Royval.
I do like Henry.
I mean, I don't hate Henry, but it is against the Sun Sao, and I'm telling you that he either needs to finish. I'm going to play him, but without that finish, he's not landing 180 strikes. It's not happening. Right. So that's what I mean with that. It's like,
but I think he can land 40 strikes and then get a finish in late.
That part is aside. Yeah, he's fighting an old guy. Going to play some of that, but you're playing for a knockout early. That's a whole different. When I play for a knockout early, I'm using that percentage exposure. So like we can just go to this fight and say, what are the chances of an early finish here? And it's like, we can get it. Henry in round 1 plus 300, Henry round 2 plus 600. So you can kind of like average those and say, you know, plus 200, or you can add them together a sense. It's plus 200, right? All right. So what are the odds of that in the first 2 rounds? Plus 200. So 1/3, 1 in 3. Again, it's about 20% max. You want to want to work with there. And again, going down this list. All right, Teruto. Okay, great. Grasso, though, I'm probably going to avoid. And Martinez, I'll play a little bit, but like, you know, you want to play more Dusko. Like, all right. So it's kind of like, right?
My fade is Martinez, but I also just don't see me getting to Askarov. So I'd say those are 2 of my fades right there. Yeah, and Grasso, I mean, I'm just totally fine with Grasso because I think in 5 rounds she's going to get 1 or 2 takedowns as well. Spend 2 minutes in top control.
Dude, you know how I give out
for a finish late. So
I like
cool with some Grasso.
I like to give out the nuts lineup, and I just created it.
Oh, yeah. I don't hate that at all.
Pretty confident. We just won this bitch. Everybody's like,
good one.
That's all it took. 45 minutes. Marley and me. That was the nuts right there. I feel it. 45-minute discussion. We broke it down. But for real, if you start to figure out, all right, I don't really want a lot of exposure to this, and this guy. Now they start to build themselves. All right, I know who to fade. We know we want a piece of Malkoon, Maximoff, one way or the other. You know, there's a few of these fights. We know we want Dusko, Jordan Wright, one way or the other. So once you start to load up on a couple fights, I didn't even, and Menefield, Cirkunov, I want a piece of it. Those are your 3 kind of all-in fights. And then figure out the rest, and you'll get the nuts on this card, unless some crazy shit happens, which it will happen like 5% of the time. All right.
Yeah.
Let's talk some kill shots, Big Marl. I'm not giving out a kill shot on this card. I don't feel that I'm ready for giving out.
I think I got to give out the only underdog that I picked on the whole card. Give me Cub Swanson, 38-year-old. Go out there, score over 10x and a win.
I'm down with that. I'm not even really like I said, I'm not qualified to give a kill shot. But if I had to, pick someone, I'm going to go with Maximoff. Is that a kill shot, or is this just like leaning on the chalk?
I don't know what I expect the fight in general to be somewhat heavy, but I don't know what the ownership's going to look like yet. I usually don't figure that out until like Thursday or Friday, and it's still early in the week. But I will have it posted over at dfsarmy.com.
Yeah. I've been fading Malkoon to my detriment. I just want to keep it going because at some point it's going to win. Like I faded.
Right. I kind of feel the same, but I can't just full. I want this fight in general.
Yeah, I'm just saying I faded Derek Black Beast Lewis. I love the guy, but I faded him in fights for years thinking this guy's not good. And then eventually that proved itself to be right. But it didn't help me when I didn't get all those early knockouts that he got along the way.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's not that good of a fighter. Like, this guy's not that good. But yet there he was winning all these fights. And then it was like, well, maybe that one skill set of just knocking people out is good.
And when Maximoff wins, he scores well, so I don't hate it at all.
He scores well. I just, I think I've just seen these Malkoon types before, the drape themselves on you wrestlers. I've seen them fail when they've gone up against another wrestler who can flick you off pretty easily, like what Maximoff I would think can do, but who knows? All right, that's going to do it, guys. Remember to subscribe, hit the notification bell. You want the kill shot. Marley's bringing out special guests every week. I've been enjoying it. Enjoying the show. It's good stuff. So keep it rocking.
We got next week, big pay-per-view, UFC 280. I'm having Dan Tom on. So looking forward to that one.
There we go. Another really good one. So also make sure you're subscribed to the channel for the kill shot when it comes out. Crush some MMA lineups. Of course, if you are not signed up at DFS Army as a VIP, my boy, Big Marley, promo code Sleeveless, gets you 10% off. You get the tiers, you get the MMA, you get all the good stuff. And we're crushing it this year. Why wouldn't you want to be a part of DFS Army? Oh, because you like losing? All right. Can't help you there.
Sign up. It's been good.
We're here to win.
It's going to stay good. Let's roll hot all year.
There we go. Oh, man. I if we could keep this going for NFL, oh, my gosh. This was the best start we've ever had to a season, and it's not even close. I love it. I love it. All right. We'll see you guys next time. Deuces.